Greetings, members one and all of the Salivation Nation, with the second part on why gold prices go up and down. What drives the price? Let's explore. Yes, a lot of different factors, and as we've talked about in the previous video in this series, there were 4 periods of price movement with gold, and many of that we did talk about kind of some of the factors that come into play as to the trends that we've seen gold throughout those 4 different periods. In this particular section, we're going to talk about specifically what does drive the price of gold from an article that I have been referencing here. Whether gold will continue going up depends on various factors. Decisions of central banks on interest rates and inflation affect the price of the metal, since lower interest rates and higher inflation both make it more expensive. The same goes for exchange rates, in the sense that a weak US dollar will cause gold to rise. And also, it's not just exchange rates, it is the dollar index. And that index is a measure of gold against a breadbasket of other currencies. It's an IMF, the International Monetary Fund measurement. And the dollar is essentially the strongest of the currencies out there. So that is probably one of the most consistent drivers of gold price. And you have the supply and demand of gold itself. Gold mining is becoming more difficult over time, which is one reason for the long-term increasing prices. However, it should also be noted, and as I've covered on this channel and talked with actual junior miners who are looking to break into the gold mining sector with discoveries that are out there in certain properties. Very interesting indeed. All of these will have a bearing on investors deciding to buy or sell either gold futures, exchange-traded funds, or the physical. And that includes, the gold, but also silver and platinum as well. What's important also is the level of uncertainty about the future of the economy, since gold is considered a safe haven in troubled times. And that really is one of the largest drivers, I think, for a gold price. And it's almost immeasurable because it is a psychological aspect. And that tenet is something that is paramount and has, throughout history, we've seen it repeated time and time again, how gold has been seen as the ultimate safe haven. Now, one thing is for sure, the dollar. The dollar, as we've talked about how gold is backed by, or is essentially traded, but the reserve currency is this dollar, this Federal Reserve note, and it is a safe haven as well. We saw that in action back in March of 2020 when there was a big, massive run to safety out of the gold and silver ETFs into the dollar. The safety of cash is something to not discount in these times for sure. But gold is the ultimate safe haven, and that is a big difference, is something to really consider here. But as to how each factor exactly influences gold, the academic literature shows very mixed results for some of them. There's a commodity boom that we talked about in the previous video in 2005. In that era, there's been a heated debate about whether gold prices and commodities more broadly are driven more by economic fundamentals or by the behavior of speculators and ETFs. And that brings us to the discussion of manipulation, which we all do agree that occurs on some level or another. And that can't be discounted, and I don't discount it, even though I don't believe in what I refer to as macro manipulation. In other words, a cabal of most institutions out there to keep the price of gold or silver down. I believe in micro manipulation. Micro manipulation is where either individuals or a collective of groups within an organization manipulate or play with the markets for their own personal gain, or the collective gain of those involved in the conspiracy. But nonetheless, it is something that is a factor and can be done, since many of these commodities, including gold and silver, are traded electronically. Ironic, considering how we in this community talk about these metals in the physical and strongly encourage folks to accumulate them in the physical, such as the display you see before you here. This turns on whether gold is essentially a financial product or a physical commodity. As with most things, the truth probably lies somewhere in between. But I disagree with that statement. I think it is much more so with gold as money, as a hedge, as a safe haven. And people will debate me as to whether gold is money, but I strongly believe it is. You can have the debate with silver. Silver, I believe, has a dual role. Its role as a commodity has been certainly emphasized by the marketplace and by the psychological aspect of it as a commodity, as its uses are so widespread in terms of its applications in the areas of science, technology, and industry. But gold is definitely a hedge against economic instability. And it's something that will never change, I don't believe. There's nothing they can do to stop that. And it's something that will drive the price, and there will be aspects of gold as a commodity that will push and pull the price one way or the other for sure. But I also believe the same in terms of its hedge. And that is how it's going to be tied to the dollar index. We talked about it as one of the drivers for the price. And so as we move into the next decade here, in 2021, we are in an area where there's a lot of uncertainty in the economy. There's a lot of currency creation out of thin air, digitization and printing, and that can only bode well for precious metals, especially gold, but also commodities out there too. And it's something that has driven the price, and I think that is something that we will continue to be plagued with, currency creation and the devaluation of those currencies. And even with a currency such as the dollar that we all have faith in and trust in, there's something, and this is why the dollar is money, by the way, but because we have that faith in the dollar, we have the faith in it today for what it's worth today, whereas 10 years ago we had faith in it being worth a lot more than it is now. So faith does not necessarily mean that it's losing its value, or that it's gaining in value, That's something to keep in mind. I think that's paramount to understand. Whereas gold, in the long run, and even in the medium term, especially here recently, we're seeing an increase in price and coming to constitute its preservation of value. I don't want to necessarily say that it's increasing in value, because how is value defined? Well, it's defined differently than price is. For me, and for most of you, we see gold's value transcending price, and that is the key. What drives the price will also provide opportunities when it's undervalued as a time to buy. But also, if it's overvalued, it's a time to just sit back and wait for another opportunity if it does come. We never know, but that's just it. So those are the factors that are driving the price of gold here in this series of videos about gold and why prices go up and down. We'll continue to see this momentum in one way or the other in the coming year. I believe one thing is for sure: we will see prices go up and we will see prices go down for periods of time. Overall, I am bullish on gold and think it will continue to climb up as the year progresses, but I also think that more importantly, the value of gold will be maintained. And it is a metal that is, I think, wise to accumulate, at the very least as a diversification tool against other investment classes out there. And you do that as a diversification, as a savings account, as a hedge, not as an investment itself, for the metal itself. In other words, you're holding the physical, or even just in ETFs. Although I believe if you are to utilize the ETFs, the exchange traded funds, you can probably make that work for you as an investment if you time your buys and sells at the right moments. I've never had the stomach for that, but I do have the stomach for the beautiful, shiny physical that you see before your very eyes right now. And it will continue to accumulate in that manner. And I know and can rest assured at night that as this gold is dispersed into various locations for safety and security and as storage, that I have preserved my wealth, and I'm doing so and will continue to do so as my budget allows. So there you have it. Post your thoughts in the comment section below. I want to extend a multitude of gratitude to you all for taking the time to watch this video, and encourage you to please rate, share, comment, and subscribe.